Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. The wolves are howling, and the warriors of Norsca will be following shortly on their heels. As we have Norsca facing off against the Beastmen, I will be commanding the Norscan forces, and Contende has command of the Beastmen. So for the Norscan army that I have brought, I have a front engagement of Marauder Horse Masters, 3 of those, and they will be supported by 4 Skin Wolves, looking to get some of that regen, anti-large, all that good stuff on the field. And then for the infantry department, we do have triple Marauder frontline, just a couple of Berserkers, most of the funds going heavily into the Skin Wolves, Horse Masters, and of course we have Wolfric the Wanderer going to be up on his Mammoth, and he is going to be bringing Seafang, Hunter of Champions, and Fight or Die. He will have some magic in the form of the Shaman Sorcerer of Fire, going to be bringing Fireball and Burning Head, as well as the Scroll of Shielding. Now for the Beastmen side of the roster here, we have Malagor the Dark Omen going to be summoning up a Cygor here in a second now, as the rest of his abilities is going to be he has Viletide, and he has the Icons of Vilification as his item here, as it is going to give a plus 12 leadership in an AoE. We also have Bray Scream, as well as Savage Domination, which is that Cygor summon, and of course he does have Arcane Conduit on top of that. For the rest of the forces, we have a front line of Ungor Spearman herds with the Blackhorn Ravagers Gore Herd ROR unit, and they do have Immune to Psychology and Perfect Vigor, a very nice unit to have, especially when you are going to be facing mammoths. We have some Ungor Raiders as well mixed into things, but the meat and potatoes of this army is going to be in its more of the Beastmen's elite infantry. So we have the Gorox Manrippers, the Bestigor Herd ROR, who is bonus versus large, and we do have 3 more Bestigor herds on top of this, so normally expecting to see a lot less armor, because these guys have 95 armor. It's pretty considerable, especially what you expect to be facing off against. We also do have some Chaos Warhounds, but we do also have some Minotaurs with great weapons as well, with the Butchers of Kalkengard. Going to be getting some nice more armor-piercing damage their way, but we do still have some mobility with some Razor Gore herds and some more Chaos Warhounds with poison. But definitely a little bit different army than I was expecting to see. These Bestigor herds definitely going to throw a little bit of a wrench into things at 95 armor. Not something that these Marauders going to be able to handle, but we'll see how well things are going to shake out as both armies now do move forward and advance. We'll see just how things are going to shape on up. The Horsemaster is going to be starting to fire on in. Not going to be trying to target this Cygor. Going to keep things busy on his department. Just going to be trying to juke as many shots as they can. Waste that summon as best that these Horsemasters can. One shot going to be coming in. Only going to be taking out one of the Horsemasters. Definitely a fair trade on that department, as the Skin Wolf is going to be lying in wait here, looking to jump in on some of the less mobile forces, and they definitely have the advantage in terms of mobility. Going to be able to really pound these Chaos Warhounds and those Razor Gore herds. Not really much to contend that mobility department on the Beastmen side. Normally you do kind of expect to see at least some Centaurs here, but most of these funds have been put into those Bestigor herds. A little different matchup here, but you can see that Cygor summon's going to be reaching the end of its summon. It's going to be having another one fairly shortly as well, but this one in particular going to be disintegrating before too long. Not really doing a whole lot of damage though, but able to chip away quite a bit at these Marauder Berserkers, pretty much just forcing the Norscans their way as they do try and force their engagement on one of these flanks, having the less numbers in melee engagement. Definitely the Beastmen here going to be turning to face them, making sure that no flank overload is going to be as possible, as the Beastmen do have a considerable amount of mobility themselves. And here is that second Cygor summon going to be coming in just as the Norscans are about to engage in melee, so that Centaur is going to be helping in that melee department fairly well. But the Horsemaster continuing to just kind of pluck away right now, firing into the backs of these Butchers of Kalkengard. But these Chaos Warhounds with poison and these Razor Gore hordes are going to try and force them back. We still have these 2 Skin Wolves right here as they are going to charge forward themselves. Going to be getting right on top of those Chaos Warhounds with poison, as well as these Razorgore herds, and they are going to quickly break them down. They do have that bonus versus large, of course, and they will beat those Chaos Warhounds and Razorgore herds without a doubt in combat. But however, this melee engagement is quickly getting broken down on the Norscan side, as the Marauders already routing very, very quickly to the charge of the Butchers of Kalkengard. But a nice little Sea Fang going to arc its way right on through those Bestigor herds, and we have a Burning Head as well. Going to be going right on down the line, going to be burning through these Bestigor herds, but it does arc its way a little bit, as it does kind of clip these Berserkers instead of the Bestigor herds, as it does a little bit of an S maneuver here. A little unfortunate positioning there, almost clipping these Gorok's Man Rippers. Actually, it will kind of clip their unit just as it does fade away, but these Horse Masters are going to be continuing to shoot away into them as they do kind of look to engage in that frontal engagement. But we do have a little bit of a problem here, as Wulfric the Wanderer is stuck in combat with the Cygor. Cygor is blocking his escape, and now these Butchers of Kalkengard, as well as the Minotaurs with great weapons, are putting and absolutely pounding onto Wulfric, as he is just taking a ton of damage. And he does not want to be caught up in that engagement. Going to be pulling out now, but now he's got to be very, very careful, as the rest of the engagement is going to be a little bit wary for him. The Skin Wolves, on the other hand, able to kind of shut down some of the backline troops, as they have been able to push off those Razorgore herds fairly effectively. And now the Skin Wolves have free reign in the backline of the engagements here. Going to be able to get some rear charges in, but they will be trying to steer clear of those Bestigor herds. They are going to be a little harder for them to really kind of break down, but they are able to finally rout off Gorok's Man Rippers. However, these Bestigor herds still sitting at full health, but these Ungor Raiders going to be compromised, at least for the time being. But man, are the Norscan front lines going to be compromised considerably. Those Bestigor herds were plenty of a match for all of what Norsca has brought in terms of melee engagement. All these Marauders and Berserkers have just gotten absolutely wasted. Vile Tide going to go down right into the middle of these Horse Masters. They do have 50 armor, so they'll be able to tank that a little bit better than the Horsemen normally would. And they are just going to continue to try and fire all their shots into those Bestigor herds. Of course, they do have that 95 armor, but the Horse Masters do have very good missile fire, so they should be able to kind of pluck away at them, break them down as best they can, and then allow the Skin Wolves kind of just take a little bit of time, regenerate what they can, and allow the rest of the Norskins to kind of catch their breath as they're going to look to regroup themselves and engage once again. But yeah, so far right now, the Norscan Horse Masters are going to be able to just kind of fire away. Skin Wolves are going to try and stay clear of the rest of the Beastmen formation here. Going to want to wait for the rest of their own troops to regroup and engage on one flank, and then allow these Skin Wolves to kind of get those nice little bit of rear charges in, especially now that the Beastmen have lost all of their mobility. The only mobility they have is really these Minotaurs, which they do have 62 speed, so that's not anything to slouch at compared to the Skin Wolves speed, which is 75. So Skin Wolves will be able to outpace them, but they still have to be a little bit careful there. Don't want to get caught out by them without the support of the rest of the forces. But now the Norskins have squared up, and then the last of the ammunition from these Horse Masters is being spent right now, trying to turn these guys off from firing onto these Ungor Spearman herd. Other shots are definitely more warranted, as a fireball going to be arcing its way down, going to be finding its connection into the Minotaurs with great weapons, clipping a few of the models there, but I do believe they should be getting up. Actually, it does look like they killed a couple, so a very nice cast there. Always good to be peeling off some models from these monstrous units. But now the Norskins slowly on the advance, as the rest of the troops going to be getting a little bit of a surround off. Last of the ammunition going to be trying to go the way of some more of the elite units, really kind of get some of that good value damage there, as the Skin Wolves get a nice charge into these Ungor Spearman herd, going to be pulling them off, as well as these Blackhorn Ravagers going to try and break down some of that infantry support. But in comes the Butchers of Kalkengard and the Minotaurs with great weapons charging on into this fight. Now the Marauders are going to be committing here, and as is the rest of the Norscan forces, but they don't have a whole lot of time here, as all of these units going to be breaking fairly quickly. A Sea Fang going to be arcing its way through these Bestigor herds, trying to do as much damage to them as they can. It won't do a whole lot to those Minotaurs, but in come the Skin Wolves charging on in, keeping most of these units at bay. One unit does break to the Bestigor onslaught. However, Wulfric is now engaged with the Butchers of Kalkengord and the Minotaurs with great weapons. Definitely going to be wanting to pull out of that engagement, allow his Skin Wolves to try and break down as much of their infantry support as they can, as the Horsemasters do get a nice little rear charge as well, keeping Malagor busy, as well as getting some charges into the other Bastigor forces as the Skin Wolves do disengage, looking to be cycling in and out of this engagement. However, the Shaman Sorcerer of Fire here, not where he wants to be. Unfortunately, got a little too far forward in this engagement and is going to get beaten down very quickly by these Butchers and the Minotaurs with great weapons. So losing that... I had tons of Winds of Magic left at this point, and I did not want to be losing that Shaman, so unfortunately in that case, so a very nice catch though by the Beastmen forces, but the Skin Wolves going to be collapsing here on Malagor, as well as these Bastigors trying to break them down, and we do have a little Bray Scream right here, going to be going on through, doing a nice little bit of damage. I'm going to be wavering these Marauder Horsemasters and might be breaking them as well, as Wulfric does get a nice little charge in through his own Skin Wolves, trying to do as much damage as he can, trying to break these Bastigors. They are going to be wavering right now, but they are still fighting, as now the rest of the unit is going to continue to cycle charge in. The mobility department going to be shining through in this late game. Balance power, though, is still a dead even, as Wulfric does rout. He is sitting at 294 HP, getting very, very low, as the rest of the Skin Wolves continuing to try and fight more and more. Butchers of Kalkengard do rout, though, and that is a very important unit going to be off the field. And we do have some returning Marauders as well. One of the best scores just finally break off, and the support for these Minotaurs and Malagor is slowly depleting bit by bit, and now it is just a mass of cavalry and Skin Wolves and the rest of the Beastmen slowly breaking down. And now with what is left, the Beastmen do not have much hope, as all of these Skin Wolves going to now be collapsing in on Malagor, as the rest of the cavalry and other Skin Wolves are going to be breaking off, making sure everything does get chased off and does not come back. Getting a charge into these Bastigors should be breaking them pretty much right off the charge, and Wulfric the Wanderer is also back, going to be trying to keep things busy right now, though Malagor trying to fight things back. He does have Hunter Champions on top of him, and these Skin Wolves are going to be breaking down him pretty quickly at this point. Rest of the units for the Beastmen going to be shattering left and right, and balance of power going to be heavily into the Norscan's favor. Army losses take it, and a very close scrap though from a Norsca Beastmen fight, and that is going to be your game. Take a little look at the after battle report. Horsemasters doing what they do best, getting some very, very nice value, as they were able to use up all of their ammunition and then were able to engage in melee in that late game. Skin Wolves as well, doing pretty good work themselves, all but one of them paying for themselves, getting some very good damage, especially on those Minotaurs, and being able to shut down the Beastmen mobility fairly early in the game allowed them to have pretty free reign on the battlefield. They still have to be quite wary of those Bastigors, because they could do quite a bit of damage themselves. But the Marauders themselves were able to get some value, surprisingly enough, able to kind of pay for themselves, despite the fact that they were broken down fairly quickly. And even this Marauder Berserker able to get 1,200 damage in value. You would not have expected that, kind of seeing how the battle was going, because most of the front line of Norsca broke very quickly. The Shaman Sorcerer unable to use most of his magic, only able to get off a couple fireballs and a burning head. A little bit of a misplay on that end. Wulfric himself not really generating a whole lot of value, but at least he was able to survive in the end, so they didn't have that leadership penalty. But if you look over on to the Beastmen side of the roster, the Butchers of Kalkengard and the Minotaurs getting a ton of value, 2,700 on those Minotaurs with great weapons, an impressive fight for them indeed. The mobility, of course, got broken down almost immediately, almost zero value on that end. And then we have the Bastigors. Bastigors doing some good work as well, really breaking that Norscan front line very quickly, especially with the help of the Minotaurs. Potentially not wide enough on the Norscan side, especially with this kind of battle here. Could have gone either way, but otherwise, rest of the forces, even Malagor, the Dark Omen, doing some decent work as well. And then having the two Cygor summons never hurt, especially that one was able to kind of keep Wulfric into that fight, especially when he did not want to be there. But otherwise, it was a very close match, very scrappy one indeed. Well played on both sides. And that's going to be all I have for you today. I do hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good one.